Okay, so in the last segment we were talking about whether a theory can be proven or not. And I had talked about when a theory is in question. Okay, so here I have a little diagram showing a theory in question with lots of tests that are refuting the theory. Okay, let's use global warming as our theory. Okay, now remember what I said at the end of chapter 1. We can't think that just because I'm using something as an example that I'm criticizing it personally. I'm just going to focus on certain aspects of the global warming theory. Okay, so this is the classic hockey stick prediction that was made back in the 1980s of how global temperatures would increase if we either lowered the emissions, if we let the higher emissions continue, or if we went even higher and had completely unrestrained emissions. So you see the blue, the red, and the purple lines. Okay, and then you see the jiggity-jaggedy line. That's the actual temperatures across time. So the green line that's smooth under the jiggity-jaggedy one is sort of a simulation of what it's evening out all the jiggity-jaggedy parts. And then you see the projections going on from 2000, looks like it's probably about at 2005 on. Okay, so this little graphic shows us again those predictions, but then it's showing us the actual, see those little vertical bars that are black on the bottom? Those are showing the actual data and how the data in real life has digressed away from the models. That those numbers are significantly lower than any of the models predicted that they would have been at this point. So actual data is not supporting the projected data. Okay. This one is, again, comparing actual data, which is depicted in anything that's jiggity-jaggedy in the red and the pink. Those are actual data. And again, this one's showing us a different model, a different way of projecting it out. And you see, again, it's the temperature has not been rising as fast as projected. And then we have the final piece of evidence that it has been used to refute the theory, which is that a lot of this variation that we're observing is really attributable to El Nino. And you can see El Nino on the left panel there. And that as the surface temperature of the water changes, it has this big effect on the globe, and it goes up and it goes down in a really predictable cycle. Okay, so the premise is if you have a lot of evidence that it throws the theory into question, then it makes us have to wonder whether the theory is accurate. One of the things about global warming as a theory is that it's based on a model that is projecting out into the future, and then we have data that is coming in that now is the test of the model. And so far the data that's been coming in has not been panning out the way that the projections had implied it should have, so that implies that the models were not accurate. Does that mean that humans aren't affecting the weather? I don't know. Does it mean that over time the globe's not getting warmer? No. It just means that the models were not necessarily accurate across time. Okay, now here's the key term for the whole chapter: falsifiability. And this is the focus of your weekly exercise 2, falsifiability. The falsifiability criterion is a concept that was introduced again by philosophers who said one way to find out if you're right is to see whether your prediction stands up to an attempt to prove it wrong. So, a scientific theory must be specific enough to be testable. It's got to be predictive, so that you're making a prediction ahead of time and then seeing whether that prediction is supported or not. It's got to be flexible enough to account for a variety of situations, a variety in psychology of different people who might be participating, things like that. So it needs to have those characteristics, but it also needs to be able to be falsified. What that means is that it must be making a specific prediction that might be supported by the data or might be refuted by the data. We have to be able to show whether this theory is actually incorrect or not. Now this might sound kind of stupid as I'm telling you this, because you might be thinking to yourself, Well, duh, it's either right or it's wrong, and we should be able to show that, right? Well, let me give you a good example, and I've already kind of beaten up on this poor guy so far in class, but like I said, nobody's safe in this class, right? Sigmund Freud. One of the reasons why his theory is not very scientific is that, yeah, it's specific, he makes predictions, he's very flexible, but he's unfalsifiable. The things he says, things like your dreams indicate something about your unconscious. Okay, why is that unfalsifiable? Well, for one thing, we don't even know exactly what your dreams contain except for when you make a report about what your dreams contained. How do I know that you're telling me what you actually experienced? Right? I don't know about you guys, but my dreams, halfway through my retelling, I've started to forget what I was talking about because the dream is fading out of my memory. So how do I know that it's an accurate representation of what the participant dreamed at all? I have no idea. How do I know that it's representative of what's in the person's unconscious? They're unaware of their unconscious. They don't know what's in it. That's the whole definition of unconscious. I don't know what's in it. So when I tell you what my dream was about, and then you, Freud, tell me, well, what that dream is indicating is that you have repressed sexual impulses in your unconscious, I just have to trust Freud because I don't know what's in my unconscious. If I knew, I wouldn't need him, right? But how do we ever test whether his statement is correct? You can't. I can't see your unconscious. I don't know whether you're telling me the dream correctly or not. I mean, the whole thing is unfalsifiable. We can never test his claims. And therefore, he can sit there and go, I was right. See? I told you. It's like, well, I couldn't refute it. There's nothing I can say against it. I could go on and on with examples of Freudian theory, but we'll just let that one go. Now, I pulled this out of Psychology Today. A noseless man sniffs out conspiracy. 6 unanswered questions about the so-called existence of the nose on my face. And he's basically making a falsifiability argument. 1. Why is it that I cannot see the alleged nose on my face unless I engage in elaborate tricks like closing one eye while crossing the other eyeball? 2. Why should I believe my bedroom mirror? Wasn't it manufactured by Landmark Industries, whose CFO is a stockholder in Halliburton, which has a vested interest in proving my nose exists? 3. On June 3rd, 2010, my nose detected a sulfurous smell. Yet when questioned, my friend Tom denied emitting any sulfurous vapors. Who or what was causing me to have this smell, and what did they have to gain? 4. In 1974, my Uncle Henry told me that he got my nose and gave me evidence of his claim by showing me my nose in between 2 of his fingers. He died in 2004 without telling me if he had restored my nose or not. Incidentally, Henry was Jewish and had traveled to Israel several times as a tourist. What did he tell Mossad about my nose? Mossad is the Israeli intelligence agency. 5. Why is it that the used tissue of May 25th disappeared soon after being left on my bedside table? This facial tissue was indispensable to the investigation of the nose on my face, but was disposed of by my mother just minutes after the 3:06 p.m. blowing. Where is that tissue, and why do the CIA, the FBI, and the Department of Agriculture have no record of it? 6. Why should I trust the appearance of the nose in my Taurus's side view mirror when the mirror specifically says that objects may be closer than they appear? What is to stop objects from appearing when they don't exist at all? The whole thing smells rotten. All right, so this is a obviously, humorous attempt to kind of talk about conspiracy theories and then also falsifiability. Like, how can I falsify the claim that there's a nose on my face? How can I find evidence that supports the claim that there's a nose on my face? Now, the beauty of a nose on your face is that, of course, you can look in the mirror. It doesn't matter if Halliburton made it. Right? Of course, you can look in the mirror. You can feel with your hand. You can blow stuff out of it. It must exist. But in falsifiable tests, we need to be able to see evidence for or evidence against the claim. Okay, now in class we do a little demonstration of the theory of astrology. To make this work, you're going to have to pause my lecture while you do the activity, okay, and then come back and hear the rest of it. So I'll tell you when you need to pause and do the thing and then come back. Okay, so first thing you need to do to be able to participate in this little demo is figure out what sign you are. All right, so I've listed them all here, and some of you may be aware that there's one missing these days, but we aren't going to talk about that one right now. Okay, so find your sign. These are the 12 signs you're going to work with. All right, now we're going to go with the theory of astrology being that personality traits can be predicted by birth date. Okay, now I'm going to let you hold here. We're going to come back in our next lecture and we're going to pick up with a test of the theory of astrology.